Well, we hope you had some good connections and conversations in that last break segment. And we have an action-packed next segment before lunch. So put on your seatbelts. Now it's Pitch Fest. We're going to see live 5 social entrepreneurs pitch for 3 minutes and have 3 minutes of Q&A from our esteemed panel here, who you'll hear more about just shortly. Each pitcher is going to get a slide, but not a whole deck, so they're going to have to tell their story on their feet. Can you imagine how hard that is? Let's just remember that they're really putting themselves on the line here when they get out there and do that, and show our respect and admiration with attention and applause after they finish. Now, if you want to take a sneak peek at the pitch order that's in your program on the bottom left, we will have an opportunity for you guys to vote. And more on that in a little bit. We will announce the winner of this pitch segment at the end of the day. But how this is going to work, the questions will come from our panel, and once the pitches are done and the votes are recorded, we'll transition into a panel discussion with our esteemed panelists, led by moderator Stephen Green, Community Director of Elevate Capital, a lot of elevates today. Amy Pearl, Founder and Executive Director of Hatch Innovation. Rob Cobbage, Senior Vice President of Strategic Investments and Corporate Development at Cambia Health Solutions. Yay! And to his left, Liz Bauer, President of Gilded Road. We definitely have some fans in the audience today. That's really great. So I think we've covered the bases. We're going to do more on voting instructions at the end here. But without further ado, let's bring out our first pitcher, Raj Vabel, representing Young Mountain Tea. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raj, and I'm the very proud founder of Young Mountain Tea. I'm here today to share with you the story of how these tea leaves ended up in this tea glass, and why the journey that they took to go from there to here represents one that has the potential to transform lives of people on both sides of the teacup. Now, these particular tea leaves were growing in the foothills of the Indian Himalayas on the border between India and Nepal. And I took this picture 3 years ago when I was working in the mountains on the Fulbright Fellowship. And shortly after I snapped my camera, a woman named Jamuna plucked the leaf, added it to her basket, and was paid 10 cents per pound of tea that she harvested. That tea was then processed and sold in the US for over $80 per pound. And when I realized that this 80,000% markup existed between the people growing tea and the people drinking it, I recognized that we had an opportunity to create an ethical company to connect the two dots. So I struck a deal. If local communities would grow the tea, I would buy all of it and then sell it in the US. In the rapidly growing tea market that's right here in the Northwest, actually. And that market's growth is being fueled largely by socially conscious, ethical consumers that are health-oriented, all of you. And American retailers are looking to meet this new surge in demand by sourcing their teas from India, which is the world's second largest tea producer. So some of the most familiar teas that we know, Earl Grey, Irish breakfast, masala chai, these are all Indian-based teas. However, these retailers have a big problem because the Indian tea industry simply has not evolved to meet your demands for quality and ethics. So we've designed a business model that solves these retailers' problem. We work directly with small growers to produce world-class teas. And this is our first example. It's a white tea that's organic and is low in caffeine, high in antioxidants, and I'd love to drink some of it with you after this. In 2015, we brought in our first batch of this tea and had a 72% adoption rate before we ran out. So now what we're working to do is increase our production by raising $350,000. Our Indian tea farmers are ready to grow the tea. Our American customers are telling us to hurry up and get it to them. And so to keep everybody happy, what we're trying to do is build a bridge. And that bridge that we're building between remote parts of India and the US is one that I deeply believe has the potential to change the world. When we talk about the way things are going to change in the future, from addressing climate change to creating more ethical forms of capitalism, the most rich and exciting possibilities are going to be the ones that grow out of cultural interactions between the East and the West. That's what these tea leaves represent, and that's the reason behind our work. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it over a cup of tea. Cheers.
How are you getting the tea to customers right now? What's your sales through channels?
Our sales channels, you say?
Sales through channels.
Yep, we started initially with retail, so selling direct to consumer, but really realized quickly that in order to create this work of building an entire tea region, we need to shift up in volume. So about a year and a half ago, we began shifting into wholesale accounts. So our customers are mainly independent tea houses, natural grocers, food co-ops, and coffee shops.
Great presentation. Question.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your impact? Tell me about the
Thank you.
growers.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're working in a very remote part of India. This is right on the border between India and Nepal. It's really defined by its extreme isolation. So these are communities that have a lot of urban migration happening. The youth leave the villages in order to go seek jobs in the cities. The bright lights attract them, but unfortunately they don't have the skills necessary to secure the jobs. So these are the people that often end up in the slums. And the people left behind are women generally and the elderly. So what we're trying to do is create dignified rural livelihoods that bring jobs to the villages so that people can remain in these beautiful mountainous areas and also promote organic permaculture. So one thing.
Oh, it's the farms? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Did the growers own the farms or?
Yes, that's very, thank you. That's a very important part of our work, is to have the farmers be in a stronger position in the supply chain for the creation of tea. Because most of tea production is done on privately owned estates where a single person owns the land and the farmers are paid these rates, 10 cents per pound. And the farmers don't have any say in what their share of the earnings are. However, if they're in a position where they can grow the tea and then process it so they have a finished good, and this is an important part because all tea processing happens on location, then they'll be in a much stronger position to influence the way we all drink our teas.
So just a quick question on the, you started out with the 10 cents compared to $80.
Yes.
So how will that change?
Yes, so what we're doing right now is paying farmers 5 times that rate, 5 to 10 times that rate. And what we're doing is buying the green leaf from them and having processed locally by independent organizations. So tea is grown, it's then harvested and processed on location and then shipped here. After it's processed, there's nothing, no value added until it reaches our cup. And we're talking about true tea, so no herbals and no blends. But what we'd like to do in the future is have community-owned factories so that, as I say, that the farmers themselves control the entire process of the tea's production. And beyond that, this has the potential to bring in a lot of opportunities from outside the surrounding areas because these are really accomplished agricultural farmers. So what we've done is partner with a nonprofit that also makes textiles and uses dyes that are made from natural plants in the area. And they boil these plants down like indigo for blue or madder for red. And anyway, just to say, we're working on
Number 2, Noah Schultz with Verbal Escape.
When I was 12 years old, I began selling drugs full-time. At the age of 13, I was initiated to the gang that ran my neighborhood. At 17, I had dropped out of high school, found myself sitting in a courtroom, being sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. As you can imagine, this was a very emotional and confusing time in my life. The classic definition for sink or swim. Poetry was one of the devices that helped keep me afloat, and ultimately became my ultimate coping mechanism. But I didn't start with that form of writing until I was inspired and encouraged by a writing instructor. She told me my words were of value, that I had something special to share with the world. I discovered spoken word poetry through a DVD set that was being passed around my facility. My co-founder and I, shortly after my co-founder and I decided and thought about how we could bring this healing art form to that setting, to that facility. And it led to us co-creating and co-instructing an 11-week curriculum. And at the end, we had a slam poetry competition. This past year, my co-founder and I have decided to carry this initiative forward. We rewrote the curriculum with an emphasis on building community through writing, creating new avenues for self-expression, and most importantly, giving the youth an area to develop their voices and giving them a vehicle to deliver them. You see, we are meant to tell stories. We're designed for it. It is our native language. And this work is important for two reasons. First, research shows we're designed to tell stories. And in the process of telling our own story, we learn about yourself. Self-reflection is a powerful tool for personal change. But sharing your stories is a powerful way to create social change. And that's what we're doing here today. That is elevating impact. By teaching kids to tell their stories using the medium of spoken word poetry, we're giving them a voice, a tool to exchange their stories and create impact in their communities. I'm here today to ask you for support in bringing this idea from concept to execution. Our goal is to bring this to the detention center in all 50 states, to help train youth in these facilities to carry this work forward in their communities. Now, I can't speak on spoken word poetry without giving an example. I can only pray that my words serve as an illustration to the faces forgotten on pages of statistics. That you realize this isn't a pitch, it's a glimpse into my mission. Our children have voices, but how can we listen? They are never given the chance to speak.
So it's falling to me apparently. So Amelia started us off by talking about collaboration. And that act of starting off by yourself and you have an idea and you have a mission and you firmly believe in it. This is a long journey you're starting as a nonprofit, I can attest. How could you create an enterprise that collaborates with others, or have you considered that, in ways to also reach these same communities but not do this alone?
Create an enterprise that will collaborate with others. So
Other organizations that serve those same communities that you want to serve.
So that's the thing, is Verbal Escape. We developed an 8-week comprehensive curriculum, but we also have developed workshops that can go in and teach anytime they really need us. So it doesn't have to be so long, and we can break it down to that organization's needs. So we can go to our curriculum, and if they want something that is more focused on community building, then we could bring and teach that. Did that answer your question?
No, I'll build on this, I think. The question is, are there other organizations that you think are addressing a similar population, or through a distribution channel that's similar to one you're going after, to partner with?
Oh yeah.
So you get a similar impact without the risk and the hard work of building from scratch.
Yeah, so we have spoken with other organizations who are doing work in the same field, one of them being More PSU Project, a partnership of Woodburn, which actually operates within a youth correctional facility. And yeah, so it's...
I'll ask a question. Tell me about the money. How much have you raised and what do you need to make this happen? And great pitch, by the way.
Thank you. So we are currently piloting our program in Florence, Oregon, and we are partnering with the Florence Regional Arts Alliance through a program called Give Youth a Voice. And they are helping us take this to the teen centers. We're actually going to do some work in the high schools on the 11th and the 12th of this month. And you said funding on and taking it forward, correct?
Right, what are you trying to raise and then how are you going to?
So right now we are trying to raise money for a promotional video to really get this word out there and tell our story. And also we need money for, we want to develop a journal. And it's a self-discovery journal that will allow the youth to really look inside themselves. And so there'll be sections on things such as anger, your story, love. They can explore these sections for themselves so they can really delve deep inside. It's something we can lead them with.
Thanks very much.
Nice show of support for Noah there.
Let's bring up number 3, Erin Moore with Participate.
Hello, I'm Dr. Erin Moore, the founder of Participate. We're a new nonprofit that's changing the way that communities are rebuilt after natural disasters by empowering the survivors to lead their own rebuilding. We're doing it because the most vulnerable communities don't recover from disasters. And we're doing it now because climate-related disasters are on the rise and our global community needs solutions. Participate was born from my personal experience. I was living in a village in Nepal last April when a huge earthquake devastated the country. In our village, 90% of the homes crumbled. We had deaths and injuries. I was the only doctor, and that was the hardest time of my life. But I stayed, and for the following 2 months, facilitated a successful emergency relief plan for my community. When things stabilize after a disaster, most international nonprofits and TV crews go on to the next global need. Participate stays with communities during this vulnerable time, and our work is different in 2 ways: ownership and research. First, our purpose is to cultivate local ownership. Our 5-year training and mentorship program teaches communities the skills and tools they need to self-determine and manage their rebuilding. So we're not the ones digging water wells. We're the ones training locals to determine what their unique water needs are and what solutions would work best for them. Then the community can be an equal partner in their water project. The difference is small but powerful. When the community holds the decision-making power from the start, the solutions are embedded in the community for the long term. The second way our work is different is that it's actually research. Community-based action research. We're training the survivors to be the researchers, so they ask the questions and analyze and prioritize what matters most to them. This way, we get to share what we learned with the global community to improve everyone's outcomes. This is low cost, high impact, long-term, and locally owned. And it's working. We're already serving almost 800 families, and we're just getting started. We're on to something big here, and I'm really lucky for the opportunity to share it with this group of big thinkers. With the body of knowledge that we're creating, our donors' money will go further, and our international nonprofit partners will have lower costs with greater impact. Yes, a disaster is tragic, but it can be a catalyst for survivors to create vibrant communities that are socially just and resilient. Thank you so much.
I'll start first. How many people are part of your team?
That's a good question. Well, I have 2 co-founders, and we were all together after the earthquake, which was the original inspiration for our programs now. So it starts with those 3, but partnerships are crucial to our work, both from the bottom up and from the top down. So we have several partnerships with local NGOs that either are or will become our beneficiaries. And then from the top down, we've had successful partnerships with government agencies and some local private sector members and international actors like the Red Cross and ActionAid's goal. It's a big team.
So, Erin, talk us through how you all would be embedded or be activated to get engaged in a project. I understand how you got engaged in the one that inspired you, but what happens next?
Well, okay, let me give you our 5-year program in a nutshell.
Great.
Okay. So after a natural disaster happens, we go through a selection criteria to identify the community-based groups that would be good partners for us. And at that point, we have kind of an intensive 4-month program where our new community researchers are learning the responsibilities of an action researcher and getting community-wide buy-in on the value of social justice and ownership and equity.
Just a question, I mean, are you picking the communities that you go into, or are you being engaged by the communities to invite you in?
It starts with the network. In this situation, I was there. But we're growing in 2016. We're planning to do 2 more additional programs in Nepal, and those are through our network, through local NGOs that we know have a reputation in their area. So when we go to a new area, we will have a champion in that area first, and a network to work with. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
Can you, if you summarized, you would suggest, it sounds like you have a program. You're teaching them to do things that they don't know how to do at the moment. So you're bringing in research expertise, but using their local knowledge, one assumes, to make it appropriate locally. So in terms of the, the program is?
Right. So I'll kind of pick up where I left off before. So once we choose our partners, then there's an intensive 4-month training program. And through that, they learn, the local team that we're working with conducts a baseline survey of their needs and assessments, their needs and assets, and then a community-wide plan to address the needs. So they end up with a 5-year plan at the end of that.
Thank you so much. Kimmy Gustafson with Manage My Co-op is up next.
Hi, I'm Kimmy. I'm the CEO of Manage My Co-op. I want to tell you guys, not my story, but the story of Bridget. Bridget lives in a food desert. We've already talked a lot about food today. In her neighborhood, there isn't a great place for her to get access to food. She has to drive all the way across town. About a year ago, while she was working at her community center, she realized that she could form a buying club. They could aggregate all of their orders together, purchase from wholesalers directly at wholesale prices. It was a hit. People love the money that they save, they love the convenience of getting the food at the community center, and they told all of their friends. And what went from a simple 20-minute-a-week task for Bridget of entering everybody's orders now spiraled into 100 families and was taking her over 6 hours a week just to input that information. This is where we come in. We're Manage My Co-op, and we make software that makes running your buying club easy. Every member can input their own order, saving the organizer time. We have streamlined order management. We have balance tracking to keep track of who owes what. It's all online and accessible via mobile phone, and it's free to get started. We only charge 2% fee on gross orders. We launched our product a year ago, and so far buying clubs have been loving it. We went from 1 group to 14, and run anywhere between $80,000 to $120,000 a month in gross sales through our system. But the problem is that Bridget isn't alone. That bigger map that's up there are all of the food deserts that are across the United States, people who don't have access to food. They all have the exact same problem that she has. Buying clubs are already an established means of getting food, between $850 million a year here in the United States. In some areas where there aren't stores like in these food deserts, buying clubs can create enough demand that makes shipping or delivering food affordable and worthwhile. But again, managing these groups is time-consuming, more so than anyone thinks. There are a lot of overwhelmed Bridgets out there, and we want to help them. Our plan right now is to go from 14 groups to 100 over the next year, and we're not just selling to existing clubs. Our plan is to help these communities start their own clubs. And we're focusing on these food deserts first. We're the perfect team to do it. We're a small but mighty team. I'm the CEO, and I have experience developing strategic relationships. Our CTO has extensive experience developing information management systems, but our secret sauce is our community manager, Zarina, who's been running her very own buying club for the last 3 years. By the end of this year, we're going to be helping over 100 communities by nearly $1 million in local, affordable foods. We're Manage My Co-op, and our mission is to build communities by putting you in charge of what you pay. Thank you.
So, great presentation, and I agree food deserts is a huge problem. This looks like a great way to address it. Are you going to be only offering the services of the software, or are you also going to help people get the food co-ops off the ground?
But
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we are actually, we've been in business for a little over, running orders for a little over a year now, and we found that what the real need is that people need a buying club in a box. So they need a ready, set product to get them moving forward, and that's a product that we're going to be launching later this summer, that we will be able to just walk into any community, hand them a ready, set, go system, and away they can run with their buying club.
Couple of questions. This is fascinating stuff, so thank you very much. Two questions I'll ask at the same time so you can get through them. The first is about, is there an application for the software outside of food buying clubs? I can imagine this could be extensible. And the second is, if you're aggregating front-end buyers, are you taking 2% there? Is there an opportunity to take margin on the back end from the wholesalers as well?
Yes. So yes, there are other applications. Most of the buying clubs that we work with don't only buy food. I like focusing on food because it's consumable, and from a business standpoint, it'll generate me more money. But there, to be honest, but there are our buying club that I'm
That's
part
okay.
of. Our buying club that I'm part of in Eugene buys from Melissa and Doug Toys, Socket Chimney Socks, Portland B-Bomb. And then, what was the second half of the question?
Was margin on the back end?
Yeah, there is a possibility for margin on the back end to generate revenue, and that's where we're moving to this other business model with the buying club in a box, that we can take a margin off the other side, and they can still get food at a discount that's been curated for them.
What is your social metric?
Building communities. What's really interesting with the buying clubs that you watch happen is that, I mean, we've heard Amelia talk about this morning. Food is community. When you sit down and break bread with people, that is, it binds you together. And that's what we're watching happen with the buying clubs, where they take care of their own by donating food to families in need within them. And so that's my social metric, is how are these people coming together, working together in order to get their needs met in a low-cost, easy startup sort of way.
Okay, picture number 5 today, Nadia Okamoto with Canyons of Care.
As a strong believer in the power of storytelling, I'm going to begin by telling you one of my own. 2 years ago, in the spring of my freshman year, my mom lost her job, and we had no choice but to enter a time of transition, being legally homeless, couch surfing with our closest friends who have since become family. During this time, my commute to school went from being 10 minutes too long to over 2 hours involving 2 bus changes. Through hundreds of hours sitting at bus stops in Old Town Portland within a 2-block radius of 6 different homeless shelters and in volunteering at a local morning hospitality church, I began to talk to homeless women. And I began to ask them what was something that was going unaddressed in their lives, what was something that was challenging them, and how could I help? The responses surprised me. I had never thought about the issue of menstrual hygiene. And I began to keep a journal of stories of using toilet paper, stolen pillowcases, brown paper grocery bags they found on the street to maintain their periods. I began to talk to different nonprofit organizations and found that none of them had sustainable services providing feminine hygiene products to women, either due to a lack of funds or a lack of displayed need. Because women were ashamed and afraid to go forward and say, I need tampons, I need pads, because that was something that was challenging them. I began to feel that it was my obligation to utilize my blessings, both educationally and with a supportive family, to stand up for the women I met, and all women who feel silenced for advocating about their natural needs. I vowed to fully invest my time, work, and resources to becoming a change maker in what I call the menstrual movement. In the summer of my sophomore year, I founded Canyons of Care. Within the last year, Canyons of Care has become a global 501c3 nonprofit that strives to manage menstrual hygiene through advocacy, education, and service, through the global distribution of feminine hygiene product care packages, and the engagement of youth leadership through a nationwide network of campus chapters. In the last 11 months, our network of 1,500 volunteers has distributed over 6,000 care packages to women in need to 30 different nonprofit partners in 10 different states and 3 different countries. And we continue to expand our nationwide network of campus chapters, 18 at different university and high school campuses around the US. As a youth-run and volunteer-run nonprofit, we strive for maximum impact. For every $2 donated, another woman is served with a care package, providing everything she needs for an entire menstrual cycle. For every $100 donated, we established a distributing campus chapter in a brand new state. Every contribution makes a difference, and I hope you join us in our fight against the stigma surrounding menstruation and our journey to ensure that every woman has the right to feel confident, dignified, and ready to discover and reach her full potential. Thank you.
Amazing pitch. Amazing. I wish a lot of the founders I work with had your energy.
I'm passionate about it.
Can you talk a little bit about the income stream that's coming in and how what's funding your work beyond donations, and how is that going to be sustainable over time?
So the majority of our donations do come from the general public, but we have this advantage because we're youth. So we not only are eligible for all the adult grants out there, but are also eligible for all the youth grants out there, and there are a lot of them. And so we have this advantage when we're applying for grants, and that's what we're going to be sustained on in the future, what we're hoping to. And the reason is because we are currently the only nonprofit in the US that focuses on menstrual hygiene domestically, and so we're a really unique cause. With youth leadership and with our ability to grow and our determination to grow, that's how we're going to be funded in the future.
Again, great pitch. You guys are really doing great today. What companies have you talked to sponsor with you? Have you talked to other menstrual or other people that are part of your revolution?
So we do fund the majority of the feminine hygiene products we receive. However, we also, one of our corporate partners is 7th Generation. So 7th Generation gives us a lot of organic cotton tampons. We're also partnered with Diva Cup, and so they give us a steady flow of menstrual cups to distribute to women in need. We're also piloting B-Girl, which is this global nonprofit that provides reusable underwear and absorbent underwear to girls in developing countries, but they chose us to pilot their first distribution within the US. And we're also trying to get in touch with Nature Care, and of course the more corporate like Tampax and stuff.
My question is, so I've been in this business a long time, and I've actually heard a lot of organizations and passionate women get up from around the world talk about menstruation and women and girls issues. And my fear is that the donation model is a really hard road, and passion will get you tired.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
I'm old. So, I'm just wondering if there were others in, maybe even in this room who were interested in helping you expand this business model into potential income streams where if you could buy one, give one away, if you had packaging, partnerships, sponsorships, there's other kinds of things that you might develop in order to be more financially sustainable and have a greater impact. Is that something you would consider?
Yeah, we're totally open to that, and we actually have a think tank. So we're run by a youth executive team, but part of that team is actually developing some sort of product, and we're hoping to create like a fun, luxurious package to sell to women, and it'll be the type of thing for everyone that's bought, 10 women are served.
Thank you, Nadia. For all those pitches. So our panelist is working double hard today. Now's a good time for you guys to stretch while we go through some voting mechanics if you'd like, but don't go too far because we're going to get into the meat of your panel here in just a minute. Okay, you in the audience, you're on. You get to vote. Here's how this is going to work. You see on the screen instructions. There's a link for an online poll to cast your vote to elevatingimpact.org, or the Impact Entrepreneurs Facebook page will work as well. We also have a way for you to do this manually if you don't have a functioning phone on you or computer. There's a paper option at the registration booth, so please go ahead and do that, but make sure your voice gets heard. Now, we would ideally be sort of opening a 2-minute window and then shutting it, but we may run into some connectivity issues with everyone trying to do this at once. Yeah. So as a result, we're going to leave this open until 2:30 today. So if you decide to leave it till later, just don't forget to pick it up again, okay? Now, leaving it open until 2:30 might leave this open for you to think, if you're a big cheerleader of one of these, like you're gonna send it out to everyone on your email list to cast a vote, but we're not gonna do that, are we? We're limiting voting to people who are attending here today, to cast one vote each, and that's an honor system, so we trust you. But we also have armies of high school students analyzing IP addresses, so, you know. Anyway, okay, so why don't we give you guys a couple of minutes to get into it, see how it goes, and we'll take a few minutes before or 3 minutes or so before we transition back to the panel. Now, why I do that, I'd like to call back all 5 of our pitch finalists, because we're going to do a group photo for you guys on stage. But you don't have to worry about that. Although, let's give them a big hand as